Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be working on my 1983 Mercedes W123. You know, one of the struggles I've had over the entire time I've owned this vehicle is stopping the vehicle from leaking on the surfaces below it. Whether it be an oil leak from a gasket or possibly a leaking seal around the oil pan, or in recent cases just diesel fuel leaks. So when you're dealing with a 40-year-old car, and granted I've only owned it for about 14 or 15 years, there's just a lot of little things that cause fluid to leak out, and chasing them all down can be quite a difficult process. But I think I finally, with this repair that we're about to watch, have stopped all leaks, at least for a short period of time. And I guess all concrete surfaces and asphalt surfaces I park at can rejoice for a short period because they will no longer be receiving diesel or oil leaks for the foreseeable future. And so today I'm going to be working on the fuel injection pump and repairing a O-ring and a copper crush washer. And then in the course of doing that, I'm going to find the source of a second leak in this video, where on my actual injectors there's a secondary line that comes off with a plug, and that actually has worn so badly it was spraying fuel out the side. First there was a little bit of a drip, but as I continued to try to find it, I was able to irritate the area that was cracked and actually cause it to spray, which led ultimately to me finding it and being able to repair it. Anyway, let's get to the video, and I hope you enjoy it. Please just take a moment to give me a thumbs up and a subscribe. These videos take a long time to make, hours and hours actually, more than the actual repairs. And I definitely appreciate your support and also coming to watch the videos. Thanks.
Danger DIY.
So I have pinpointed a diesel fuel leak coming from the base of this fuel out port that feeds the OM617 engine. The likely culprit is a worn out O-ring and a flattened crush washer. So for this job, having the area super clean is important. So I'm going to hit the surfaces with some carb cleaner, and then I'm going to thoroughly wipe it down. The red outlined areas are retainers to make sure the 32-point fuel output ports don't move. They are torqued down, and these retainers make sure they stay that way. So we'll need to remove them after loosening and disconnecting the 6-point fastened fuel lines. You are going to need a 17mm open-end wrench to remove the 6-sided fuel line connector. I'm going to be using this flare wrench I got from Harbor Freight and remove the 2 fuel lines with it. Once started, I can use my fingers to finish the removal. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit these retainers with some penetrant to help me when loosening the screws. I tried to loosen this screw with a regular screwdriver, but I could not get it to budge. So I switched to my Milwaukee electric screwdriver. Even then, I had to continuously increase the torque until it was at max. But then it got it without any problem. When you are done with the first fuel line, repeat for the second and any subsequent lines you want to remove. The throttle linkage to the pivot assembly was getting in my way of the fuel line connectors at the engine, so I removed it to help me more easily access the 6-sided connectors on the block. Now, if you do want to remove this, it uses a 10mm wrench. Once you've disconnected everything, carefully slide out the rigid fuel line. Repeat the same procedure for the next fuel line and any subsequent fuel lines you wish to remove. and then remove the 32-point retaining hardware. You are now ready to use the 32-point socket and remove the fuel output port. Okay, so it is really important not to drop any debris into the open port and not to move anything other than the spring and the crush washer. The pump is a high precision instrument, and if the part below the crush washer is unseated, it is likely your injection pump will fail to work upon reassembly and will require a very costly rebuild service repair. You are going to want to use a precision pick tool to remove the crush washer and to put it back into the same area. Now install the new O-ring, carefully place the spring back into the open port, and then screw back in the 32-point fuel connector. Carefully finger tighten the connector until it is securely seated. And then use a torque wrench set at 35 Newton meters and tighten the delivery valve down. I'm going to tighten it down until I get the first click, and then I'm going to back it off and then re-torque it back down to 35 Newton meters. Once you're done with the first valve, repeat for each subsequent delivery valve you want to service. Now I'm going to show you just a few things from the second delivery valve and then wrap up the video. First, the spring may fall out like it did on this delivery valve removal. Oops. And second, the crush washer may be stuck in the barrel of the delivery valve. Don't worry, you can get it out with a pick. I cleaned up this delivery valve and I'll need to install a new O-ring and then install it back into the pump. Don't worry, I got the spring from under the car and made sure it was clean and I put it back in. You're going to do the same procedure for each delivery valve and then reinstall the high pressure fuel lines. Leave the engine side of the high pressure line loose so you can bleed the air. Many people just recommend you crank the engine until fuel sprays out. However, I primed it using the Bosch primer, pushing it about 1,000 times. Okay, just kidding. It might have been 100 times though, until I saw fuel coming from the last cylinder injection port. I tightened that one down and then I finished it off by cranking the car with the throttle open. It took about 10 seconds of cranking and then fuel started to spray from the fourth cylinder and then I tightened it down as well. The car may run rough for just a period of time, or it may have trouble starting for just a period of time. But don't worry, it will work itself out and run smoothly after the fuel gets all of the air out of the line. After I thought I was done, there was a leak at the end of the high pressure line, but it wasn't actually at the line. It was the terminating fuel line with the plug in it. It had cracked and was leaking fuel. As I was manipulating the area around it, it caused it to leak worse, which was great because then I realized it was what was leaking. I just replaced it with some new fuel line I had around the shop and reused the plug that was in the old one. Problem solved. I ran into a few problems while recording this video and lost some of my better angles and shots I thought I had. But in any case, I hope the video was helpful and that you'd like and subscribe to the channel. I am going to include a link to another video by Diesel Mercedes that does a really nice job showing this repair on a 6-cylinder diesel injection pump. I will list the parts in the description with links. And just to recap, this repair was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, and I was so happy once it was done and my car wasn't leaking diesel fuel any longer.
Danger DIY. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.